working class America. Before I can move through the research I've done on the Golden Dome and other issues that have been involving the Trump administration and the Democratic leadership that needs to go, I really need to get over this big, beautiful bill. This is a bill that was passed as a budget reconciliation bill. Sorry. That means it only needs 51 votes in the Senate to pass. Now, if it wasn't a budget reconciliation bill, it would need 60 votes in the Senate to pass, which they would not get. And if we'll circle back to this, but you're going to be mad at what you hear that is somewhat not budget related. So keep in mind, I'll circle back to that, but due to this bill being cannon fodder and basic window dressing for something called no tax on tips. Let me explain that to you really quick. Number one, that's a standalone bill that has its own bipartisan support in both houses. So it can pass on its own. And actually, probably in greater detail. This small passage in this bill actually makes it for earners up to $165,000 a year. And just to let you know, it's a tax write-off, not a tax break. You still got to report it to your bosses, you still got to write a W-2, and you still got to do a write-off. And a lot of service workers, just to let you know, MAGA, don't pay payroll taxes because they don't make enough. And especially in blue states. I think that's a federal thing too. I will double check into that. But especially in blue states, here in Connecticut, if you don't make enough money, you don't pay payroll taxes. So it will benefit the people closer to $165,000 a year more than it will benefit the poor $50,000, $20,000 a year person. So let's not make that cannon fodder and window dressing anymore. And again, I will show you that cutting these Medicare and Medicaid benefits were now being pointed at someone that they hate, as always, the immigrants. And I will show you something right here that will show you that it's a small drop in the bucket, any fraud that happens in Social Security. And I will go through all statistics right here above. It's through AI, and it actually encompasses about 12 different newspapers. So from Fox all the way over. So it's a pretty wide range. And I'll show that for you. That's a blatant lie. I believe he says almost 2 million illegal immigrants every year take advantage of it. And we know you don't care about health care, so stop bringing it up. Because if you cared, you would still care about the 12 million Americans that were still kicked off. If 14 million U.S. citizens or something were kicked off, at least 12 to 14 that are going to lose their health care. So stop talking about that. Stop making that a scapegoat. Stop making the immigrants a scapegoat, especially for when they cannot take advantage. They can't vote. They can't do these things. So they're just right-wing lies. So we're going to show the video and the video from Mike Johnson, who says this.
Savings for the American people, cuts to government to make it more efficient and effective and work better for the people. That was a big campaign promise of President Trump and a big promise of ours, and we're going to achieve that. So in the calculation here, there's more than $1.5 trillion in savings, Margaret, for the people. And that's the largest amount, biggest cut in government really in at least 30 years. And if you adjust for inflation, probably the largest in the history of government. So we're proud of what we produced here. We've checked all the boxes. We're all the things that you mentioned in existence, in addition to American energy dominance, investing in our military industrial base, which is appropriate for us to talk about this weekend, and so many other priorities. And that's why we call it the One Big Beautiful Bill. I think arguably it's the most consequential legislation that Congress will pass in many generations, and it's a long time coming.
Well,
some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if If Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks.
And after all that grandstanding, all that hate, now the big guy making the same promise and breaking the same promise.
A lot of people hear that and they get concerned about Medicare and Social Security and
Not going to have
Medicaid
anything to do.
and
We're talking
defense
about-
spending.
we're talking
You
about
won't touch
theft,
Medicare, Social Security.
abuse, fraud.
Okay.
No, I said to people, we're not touching Social Security, other than we make it more efficient, but the people are going to get what they're getting.
Okay, so the entitlements
And
off
we're not
the
raising,
table.
and we're not raising ages or any of that stuff.
Okay,
No.
off the
A small provision later in the bill that allows the president to sidestep the Supreme Court and all legislation for that matter, taking away their ability for injunction bonds. Please look this up. It's a whole nother story in its own. It's not part of the budget, and it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't even be in the bill. And that's it's a reason why a lot of Democrats voted against it. The no tax on tips has its own standalone bill, so don't worry about that. They're going to get their no tax on tips at a better rate than $165,000. Still not have to pay. They're not paying payroll taxes anyways, so it's going to definitely benefit anybody that makes over $100,000 and still takes tips. Let's not kid ourselves. So this beautiful bill is a big, beautiful tax break for the billionaires. As we already mentioned, all the terrible things, and we're going to get into the Golden Dome and how physics teachers and professors are not even saying that's physically possible to do that. And the costs would be tremendous. Putting satellites basically in space to shoot down things. This is basically Ronald Reagan's Star Wars on steroids, putting nuclear weapons in space. And then we'll get into how that's going to build another nuclear arms race. And we're not the best at space all of a sudden. We have great competition with other countries like China and Russia. North Korea will also go to space. India. These countries have private companies also, and billionaires are willing to make deals with governments. You know, this is bad for our country. Corruption is running wild, and lawlessness from our president, who should stand by the Constitution, who took an oath, is not standing by it. So stick around, listen to more, follow. It's my first video using editing software, so sorry if it comes out like shit.